that maybe came up at the end of yesterday that you'd like to address or think about or catch up on? Before I open it up, I guess before I ask you for questions, let me just tell you what we're going to do today so that you maybe know what you might want to ask questions about. Today, we're essentially going to readdress everything that we did last week, but just by doing it a little bit more. So I'm going to walk through, you're going to try doing it with me. Everybody's going to just try going through the motions a little bit of opening the thing, getting some data in, just learning, oh, how do I save data? How do I send it here? Which button do I hit? And just give people a chance to get to know things. All right. So with that, I'm just going to pause for a second. I'm going to mute and give people a chance to ask questions. All right. I'm not hearing any questions. If I'm stomping on you and you're just about to get brave enough to ask them, please raise your hand or put it in the chat, or ask one of the other ESIL folks that are around. Let me start by giving you our link for the day. And then I am going to share my screen while we walk through what we're doing here. Okay, so here on the ESIL website, where did I send you? We are in the pre-summit trainings. So here's the home site. In pre-summit trainings, there's an overview that just tells you how to get to everything. And then there are the 3 different trainings. All the documentation from the first week is right here in the head in the clouds. We are now in the feet on the ground section. And you're going to see 5 little sections here. Some of these are redundant. There is a data stream and a data stream light. One of these I'm going to use to lecture with, and the other one we're going to use to practice. Okay, so first, go to the startup procedure. This is the main thing that we worked through last week on how to start up Cybers. So if you scroll through this, it's going to be all of the screenshots of all of the steps I'm about to do. So I'm going to walk through them. I want you to walk through them with me using your account. Try to do everything that I'm doing. But if you get lost first, just ask us to pause so we try it again. If you just need a companion, this website cruises through and shows you the whole thing. And then about halfway down, there is this. If you click this, it takes you to a video of Eric explaining how to do a lot of this, if you need to do this in your own time. Why are we spending so much time doing this? We did the whole thing last week. Why are we spending a bunch of time this week doing it? Again, this is the startup procedure. If you want to use this system at all, we just need to learn how to start it up. And there are just a couple things we have to do to get it up and running every single time we want to do so. Okay. So I'm going to scroll back to the top of this and leave this here. You guys can go to that if you need. I am going to go to Google and go to the Cyverse DE. The discovery environment is not where we go for logins. This is after we already figured out our login information. So there's a place for, if you missed last week, this is a place for you to already get hung up because you might not have your login information. If that's the case, go to the chat and send a message to Eric Verley, and he'll pull you into SideRoom and get you all set up with a login. We want to do that before the summit. So don't hide in the shadows and think that we'll figure out another time. This is when we want to do it so it doesn't interfere with later things. I'm going to keep charging ahead, assuming that most of you were here last week. You've gone through this, and we're just doing the startup procedure to practice it again. Okay, so you're coming along with me. First, you're going to need to be logged in. Mine has a T, meaning I'm logged in. If yours shows a blue and white icon of Cyverse, that means you're not logged in. First, we have our front page. This tells us how much computation we have left in our budget and how much storage I have left. I'm good to go. A reminder for those of you who have exhausted this, it's going to pop up and say, call us to get a subscription and give us money. Don't give Cybers money. Come to us at ESIIL and have us bump you up. Right now, you're artificially restricted so that you can't accidentally spend a bunch of computation. But we have the ability to just bump you up and bump you up and bump you up. So right now, if you're on a basic plan, when you run out of that, let us know and we'll bump you up to a pro plan. All right, the second thing right here is data. Okay, this is the first thing we're going to practice. And I want you to, we're going to come back to this. We're going to come back to this. Okay, but let me just remind you what's going on here. This is our personal data folder. So right here, I have made a folder called training examples that doesn't have anything in it. And so you should look and you should see right here your username. And if you've ever uploaded anything into Cyverse, that stuff will be right here. And if you haven't, then you won't see anything here. The other option is that you can go to community data. And in that community data folder, if you scroll down, there is one called ESIIL right here. Click that in, click inside that for me. This might take a minute for yours, and there's a folder called training example. I want you to just open that and see that there is one shape file called tree inventory that I've dropped in this community folder for all of us to see and play with today. So everybody make sure you can just navigate to this and feel like you can find a basic folder inside of this community data structure. Okay. So inside of ESIIL, you could create a new folder if you wanted for your group during the summit, if you need to move data in and out. But this data can be seen by everyone. So as you can see, you can hop on and just see this data that I put up there. But if I go back to the one with my username on it, I've also made a training examples folder. I haven't put anything in there yet, but none of you can see that because this is my private one. We generally refer to this whole thing under the name persistent data. So these are the data storage options for large data that you don't want to go away when you shut down your instance at the end of the day. Now we can come down here and apps. These are all of the Docker container applications that have been made by different people. The one we're going to use is Jupyter Lab ESIIL. So go ahead and click on that. We set up a specific timestamp for the Innovation Summit so that everybody has the same computer right now, and that computer is saved in time under this particular timestamp, and that's called Innovation Summit 2024. So select that. Then come down and hit next. Now you select which hardware you want. We don't need very much today. You could do something like 8 cores and 32 gigs of memory and maybe 64 gigs of hard drive space. I have to move this up a tiny bit, and I can now hit next again. It's saved all of that stuff in. I'm going to say launch my analysis. You guys should all be doing this with me. Not seeing any alarms going off in the chat, so please, if you're having any trouble. Okay, now we're going to go to analysis, and that opens up our ephemeral instance. All right. Well, that is okay. So now that's started up, and we're going to do a couple things to get ourselves set up first. Okay. One, I just have a text editor right here, and I've copied in these 2 lines of code from the hack. Let me put that link up right now for you again. Okay, let me unshare real quick. There is a comment in the chat about being prompted to request access. All that means is that we haven't set you up with access to Cyverse yet. If you can send Eric your name, your username, he can get you on the fast track to that, and it shouldn't be 1 to 2 days. It should be potentially very, very soon. Okay. Well, I'm grabbing this link to everybody, and that gives everybody a chance to ask questions real quick or take a breath and catch up if I'm moving a little too fast.
Ty, can I just say for people that are getting a compute, what's the exact exceeded computation limit? If you can just put your Cyverse username in the chat, I'll send in a request to get your allocation bumped up. If you're also getting access denied to the Cyverse discovery environment, just send your username as well, and we'll be able to get you access.
But I appreciate everybody bringing those up now. I want to emphasize this is when we want to deal with those problems so that at the summit, everything's moving smooth and we don't have to slow everything down. All right, I put in the link to the Cyverse hacks, and about halfway down, 2/3 of the way down, there's something called the RStudio in Discovery environment. So when you're seeing these 2 links, I'm sharing again, you see what's going on here. You can copy those from the link that I gave you. Yeah, I can also put these directly in the chat. Okay, what are these? These are, we're gonna just fix RStudio right off the bat. So I just save this text file on my desktop and I just pop it open to do the quick fix when we need it. So we're gonna come in here and we're gonna grab this number. Oh, first I'm gonna go like this. You can get it from there, but we're gonna come in here. Oh, that didn't work. So this is why we're doing this for those of you that needed to know. I'm gonna copy that number. This is the number of the ephemeral computer. You just set up an ephemeral computer. This thing exists for right now until you shut it down, and then it's going to disappear. For right now, this is the ID number for that computer. So we're going to just copy that over into here. For some reason brings the HTTP along with it, so I'm going to delete those out. Okay, so there's that number. I'm going to copy into these 2 places. Make sure I don't have any spaces because it often okay. So there, everything. I just have these 2 links with that number in it. And this is going to be my fix. And I only have to fix it once right at the beginning of opening an instance. Okay, so I'm going to put it up here in the web address of the broken one. And it's still broken. And then I'm going to take the second one, put it in there. And we have RStudio working. Okay, so again, everybody should be doing this along with me, and please flag if you're having trouble so that we can help you catch up. Okay, so what tabs have I done? Right here, I have the discovery environment. If I go whoops, I hit that button on accident. Analyses. I'm gonna stop this thing I just accidentally submitted by hitting that button. Pretend like that. Pretend like you never saw that. Okay, here is the instance that I'm running. So we can see that in one tab. Here in this tab, I'm seeing the sort of main computer that I have open in that ephemeral computer space. And our studio is now running into a tiny little mini server inside of that ephemeral computer. So everything that happens in our studio will also disappear when we get rid of our computer. But it looks like a little different interface and it opens itself in a new tab.
Hey,
That,
Ty,
yes,
there's a request in the chat to pause a bit.
yes.
And there's also a question about if you can increase the capacity of an analysis instance after it's been created.
You cannot, but when you fill it out, you may have noticed at the bottom there was a maximum. So when you're putting in your request, that's for the minimum allocation that you need. And sometimes it will give you more than that when it's trying to just partition hardware. So sometimes you just accidentally get a bigger machine than you asked for, or it's able to scale a little bit. But I have had many occasions when I just fired one up, was trying to do something and maxed out the memory and crashed the thing. And the whole thing just goes dark and you have to go start a new instance that's bigger than that one. So there is a bit of a trial and error process on figuring out how big you need. And always try to go a little bigger than you need than a little smaller than you need. Okay.
And then there's another request to repeat how to set up the text file.
You got it.
For the RStudio.
Yep. Okay, so I'm back at the website. And if you go all the way back out to the home page, one of the other options here is additional resources. And that has Cyverse hacks. And down there, you're going to find these two pieces of code right there. Those are the two pieces of code that we're basing everything off of. So you can find these. I put the link in there and you can come down and just find these. Now, how do we just edit those? I mean, you could go and just type these in with the number, but that's a little laborious. And I tend to transpose things. So instead, I copied those two over into just a little text document. And where it says ID, I just need to replace that with the ID of the ephemeral computer that I made. So the only thing that we're missing now is, okay, where do I get that number for my ephemeral computer? Well, you could find it over and over again. Just on your main computer page here, you look up and you just see it up there. That's the same number. When we tried to mislink this and we clicked on this, it gave us the number. All of the web paths are always going to have that number in it. Any web path you have open on all of these. So you can find that number repeatedly, and you're just going to take that number and put it in here. Now that number is attached again to the ephemeral computer. So when you shut down the ephemeral computer, that number goes away and this hack doesn't work. But as long as you have that number assigned, this should work repeatedly. That even means if I shut this whole thing down, close all those windows, the thing's still running. I have just shut down my access to it. I can go back here to go to analysis and go into that computer. And everything is as I left it. I should be able to now click on this and it still opens just fine. Okay, so I only have to fix this once. Now, how do I put that in? Well, when you hit this button, it's going to open this new tab, but this is going to break. So you're going to take the first one, copy it, and paste it in here. Hit return. It's going to try to go to that new address. It's going to break again. Then you're going to put in the third one, put it in, hit return, and it should take and finally load the working. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Yeah. Looks like Ming is okay. I'm just gonna unshare for a second. Just to give people a little breath to see if they want to ask a question out loud or want to take a chance to put it in, make sure everybody's just not feeling behind.
So when I get to our studio and click on it to open it up, it won't open. Like the link is not there. Is that because my account isn't fully approved or something?
So you saw the same thing I did, right? Like you got to the main computer part,
Uh-huh.
and then when you click on our studio, it opens a new tab,
Yep.
and that is a black screen or
Is
gray screen or whatever.
yeah,
Air
it
screen.
says this site cannot be reached.
Yes, okay. So now in the path, you see the number for your computer.
Okay, my ephemeral computer?
Yes. Yep. So if you click on that broken page, you click on the path and you see that number at the top.
Yep.
That's the number you want to put into the code. And then you put
Ah,
those two lines in, and it should fix your RStudio. So everybody has their own number. The number that you saw on my screen was just the one for my ephemeral computer, but you're in your own ephemeral computer.
okay. So where do I put that code again?
Yep, let me go back to screen sharing and
Yeah, you've probably done this 3 times already.
that's fine. That's the point of today. Okay, so there are these two lines of code here that came from if you look in the chat, that's been linked a couple times to take you to the hacks. But you're just going to take your number and replace
Right.
the number you see on my screen, you're going to replace with your number. That's going to give you these two. Okay, and then you're going to go and just copy those and put them into the web address of the broken. Mine is now fixed, but the one that is the broken one, you put them right into here. Just paste it right into there. And it'll break again. And then you do the second one. And it should fix it again.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody practice that. Unless you're a Python only person and you don't need to open R, and then we don't care. Then you don't care about this little step. But most people have been wanting R. Okay, now what else do we have to do for our startup procedure is we have to go set up the SSH key. And then you're done. We're almost done with the startup procedure. I know it feels really overwhelming. Just pretend you're an astronaut firing up a really expensive spaceship. Okay, so back at, and I'll put the link up for this. Back at the GitHub, or back for the GitHub for all of ESIIL. Here's the Innovation Summit where we're mainly working. And if you keep going, there is a repository called ESIIL. I think it's usually right at the top of page 2 right now. ESIIL. Let me give everybody this link. Now, this is just a little mini repository just to help you with this one little task. Lots of people do this. We didn't want to confuse it with the big repository you were using. You can use this over and over again. It just has these two little pieces of code in it to help you make a key. Okay. Now, I'm going to go to the raw version of this. No, I'll do it the right way. Okay, so I'm going to, I'm just in this repository. I'm going to copy the address. We're allowed to copy the address instead of the fancy SSH one because we're not going to try to send anything back. We're just going to grab something from this website. I'm gonna come back in here, and on the left here, for those of you who don't know, this is the GitHub logo on the left, and it signifies that there is a little widget application here to help you guide you with GitHub. So we're gonna go hit that, and it first comes up with the blue menu, says clone a repository. It wants a link. What link am I giving it? I'm giving it this link that I just copied from the Cyverse utils. I'm gonna paste that in there, and I'm gonna say clone. And fast as that, the Cyverse utils becomes a folder right in my home computer. I see a hand up, Evan. Go ahead.
Hey Ty, a couple of folks in the chat and myself as well, were wondering if we did this last week, do we need to redo it again, or is it whenever we create a new ephemeral computer, we need to do it?
You need to do it every time you start a new ephemeral computer, because every time you need to set up a new key, GitHub will not let you use a universal login for this because it can be really problematic for their security. And so every time we make a new ephemeral computer, we have to set up a new SSH link.
I guess along with that, I was here last week and when we were doing the last step, I had just used the same text file, like the same numbers, so it kind of implies to me that I didn't create a new ephemeral computer. Would that likely be the case if I just had anything like open still over the past day or so?
Probably you just didn't try to push anything.
Okay.
So the ephemeral computer, that SSH key allows you to pull and push to a private repository. The repository that we had you pull from, for an example, was actually a public repository that didn't require an SSH key to pull. You just wouldn't have been able to push back. So my guess is that you just used an old key, but it didn't really matter. And that we should just make sure we have a new key this time, because we're going to try to get you to push back this time.
Thanks.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot going on, and we were moving really fast last time, which is why we do this again. But the reason I'm calling this as a startup procedure is the things that I'm doing right now, you do every time. And so you get pretty fast at doing just this suite of things. Okay, so the two folders, you could open either one. It doesn't matter. I'm going to open the Python one. It doesn't matter what kernel we're running on for this one. And I'm going to hit play. Now it's asking me for information. I just told you it doesn't care about your information. Well, this is not to log in. This is not what's giving you the security access. But what this is doing is giving a public tag to your contributions. So when you write code and you send it in, that code has your name on it. And when they do all the graphs on who contributed to the project and how many lines of code did everybody send in, it has your name instead of some anonymous grouping name. So here I'm going to put in my GitHub name and my email. But again, these are not for security reasons. These are for credit reasons. So if you want to be an anonymous contributor, you could leave those out. That produces our line, our numbers. That's our key. These numbers are our key. We want to go from SSH all the way till the end of the Jovian user ID. And we're going to copy all those. We're going to go back to GitHub. Here is really confusing, I think, because there is one settings, two settings, and then three inside of our user. There's another settings. That's the one we're going to. A key is a personal thing, not a repo thing. So you're going to go to your personal account and the settings for your personal account. Here we are. Come over here, and on the left, there's SSH keys. Here is the key from last week that I made. That one is now defunct because I've deleted that instance. So I'm going to delete that key. I'm going to go new key. Put that in, and again. Authenticate. And my computer is almost completely set up. I have all of the permissions I need. I'm hooked to all the things that I need. I just need to go get my GitHub repo so I can start working with folks. So I'm going to go to my top folder here. And then I am going to go back to the ESIIL. Back to our Innovation Summit repository. Okay, so now we're all ready. The last step here, and again, I'd like everybody to try to do this along with me. The last step is we just need to hook to our team's repository. Now, if you guys are here with working groups, your working group has its own repository that you have permissions to. If you are here for the Innovation Summit, I am going to set up individual repositories for the different groups that break out. And so you will just pop into an already made repository that you have permission to. But there's always this question of, oh man, which repository am I going to bring in? That's the last thing. So let's go. I want everybody to go to the Innovation Summit repo. And we are going to, I'll put this in the chat. Okay, and we are going to do our first basic GitHub action, which is we're going to make a new branch. So right here on the top left, I'm on main. What? I did Zoom catastrophe there. Okay, right here on main, I'm going to click down on that and go view all branches, and that's going to take me to the branches page. Right now, I want you to try to go new branch and put your name in as the new branch. It can be your username or your other name, but go ahead and put your name in there. No, don't put apostrophe. And I create a new branch. Yeah, so this was part of where Eric, we're testing everybody's ability to do this during the Innovation Summit. So a lot of you don't have permissions. Let us work on the permission status really quick. Eric, are you able to change the team permissions so people are able to branch?
Yeah, let me see here. It might just be a couple minutes.
Okay. I'm going, let's circle back to this. Eric's gonna work on this is the first time we've done it this way, so we're testing something out on you guys. So let me go on to the next step, and we'll come back to that in 1 second, okay? So this branch that I started, but let me go back to just the beginning and we can do this generically. Right here, this is saying, what branch am I looking at? Okay. Now for our repository, we've only had one main branch. This is like all of the information has gotten in and out of this one stream of saving our work. A branch brings off something that looks exactly like that and travels in parallel next to it. And then when you've made all the repairs or changes that you want, you can merge that branch back in with the main. What we're doing this right now is just to test that everybody has permission to make edits on the Innovation Summit repo so that during the summit, you can make edits on the repo that is assigned for your group. And we can save ourselves time there. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Tyler. The team has access now, but just make sure you accepted the invitation to the team. It looks like maybe half of everyone accepted it. So just check the email that's associated with your GitHub account. And then you should have
Seeing some affirmatives pop up in the chat now. I got the button now. Thanks, Eric. That's awesome. Okay, so right now you should be looking for, yeah, if that option pops up for you, view all branches, we're looking for this new branch button to pop up for you. And now you can make a branch in your there we go. Dana's got it. Kova's got it. Sweet. So start making some branches. I'm gonna pause for a second while everybody catches up with that step.
Hey, Ty, can you share that branching step again, exactly where we're supposed to go and where the button should appear?
Happy to do so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we are at the Innovation Summit repo. And in here at the top left, it doesn't like when I try to zoom in on this button very much. Right there, there's a little drop-down menu that right now says main. So the main branch is, again, we're going like a big tree, I guess. And now everybody's sort of forking off to be able to do their own stuff. But the main is the thing that makes the website. The main is the main storage of everything. So you are going to fork something off into a branch, do all the stuff, the drafting that you want to do. And then when you feel good about it, then you merge back into the main, and then it's part of sort of the main thing that everybody's working on again. The branch just allows you to go off and draft and not break all of everybody else's code. Okay, now, so right now I'm on the main. When you go in here, I'm on the main. Most of the edits that I've done so far have been on main. If you click that, now you see, oh, here are some of the branches that other people have formed. One of those is the GitHub Pages branch. That is what's making the website. And then here are some branches that have popped up as you guys have been making them. Let's go to view all branches at the bottom, because I bet we have more branches than those 3. Now you're going to see, ooh, even view more branches. Look at all of those branches that we've already formed, which is awesome. You can see when they formed. And up here at the top right, there is a green button called New Branch. If you don't see that green button yet, then you don't have permission yet. If you don't have permission yet, it's likely because you have been sent an invite that you haven't accepted yet by email. So check that. If you're not seeing that, make sure that Eric has your username and he can get you on the team, and then the team should all have the right access. Sweet. Okay, now if you go to your branch, now notice on here, instead of main, it says Ty Tester. So now any changes I make aren't going to go on the website. Any changes I make are just changing within my branch until I go and I merge it back into main. It says it's up to date with main. Nothing has changed in main since I changed this, and I haven't changed anything here yet. But I'm going to go here to code, SSH, and then I'm going to use this copy URL to clipboard, and that copies this address. That's what I'm going to take back here. I'll do this again, but we're going to go back to the GitHub app. I'm going to say, give me that repository. And I'm going to put that SSH link that I just pulled. And I'm going to say clone. Right here, you see at the bottom, it says it's cloning it over. clone successful. So I come up here and you're gonna see a new folder has arrived. And inside it has all of the stuff from the repo. That is the end of our startup procedure. Okay, so let me pause real quick. I'm gonna stop. So what did we do? We got into the DE and we started up the ephemeral instance. When that ephemeral instance was open, we went and did the little code hack to get our studio to work inside of that. Then we went and hooked up our SSH key, so we were allowed to pull and push to GitHub. Then we went and figured out what we want to get from GitHub, put that link in and pulled it, and now we have everything in that we want. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns about the basic startup procedure?
Yeah, Ty, this is Brian. So I had cloned the repo earlier using HTTPS, and now it's there. And now I can't clone the SSH because it's already exists. So I need to delete the one that's there, and I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, no problem. Let me show you. Or Eric? Eric, do you want to show how to delete this? Oh, you don't have a thing open. Never mind.
Yeah,
mind.
sure. Yeah, well, yeah, I'd have to spin one off really quick. You're gonna have to go to the
Anyways.
terminal.
Yeah, we got it. Exactly. No
Let me
problem.
Let me just put it in the chat. This is rm-rf rm-rf let's see.
So let me show you there are a couple things going on here. Right now, we just have this folder. We just want to delete it. If you go left click and try to delete, it usually won't do it because it's full of stuff and doesn't like to use recursive delete through this. So what Eric is showing you instead is how to use the terminal command. So in here, terminal, if you open that, this is just the basic background of the computer. And so we do remove. Remove by itself has that same problem that it won't want it to do things inside of a folder. So then we do the R. And then or F. And then we do the path. So that would be, you can right click on this and say copy path, which since it's in the top folder, it's just the folder name.
Hi,
And-
Ty.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please, can you quickly walk me through the last part of copying that SSH and putting it in here?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure to do so. Okay, so back in the Innovation Summit repo, that's the one that I linked, so you should be able to find that to start with. Then you're going to go, oh man, I don't want the main branch. I want my branch. Well, I don't see it immediately, so let's view all the branches. And then pick out, find your branch, click here, and that'll take you to your branch. Okay, so now I'm on my branch. That's the hard part. Just figure out what we wanted to take. All right, so I'm going to pause right there because I'm about to do the part you asked for. I just want to make sure everybody, you're looking. All right, so I'm on the place where I want to go. There's this big green button in the middle that says code. I'm going to go click that. And down here, there are 3 different tabs. I can do HTTPS, I can do SSH, or I can do GitHub CLI. I'm going to click the SSH one. That brings up the SSH link. Then right here on the right side, there's a little copy to clipboard. I'm going to copy that to clipboard, and now it's ready to paste. when I go back into my ephemeral computer, oh, here, now I'm going to be at my top folder. So click this folder right here a couple times and you should say home and data, and you should see the GitHub widget on the left. I'm going to click on that GitHub widget and it brings up a blue set of buttons. I'm going to do the bottom one, which is clone a repository. That asks me for a link. So I'm going to give it that link that is in my clipboard from the SSH link and hit clone. And it's cloning it back in there for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, please throw in questions in the chat if you're having them, or throw your hand up if you're having any struggles, all right? Okay, so inside this innovation, inside docs, so let me go back again. Yeah, so in Innovation Summit 2024, docs, trainings, and there's this trainings to code QMD. Try opening that up. That opens as just a text edit. So instead, hit this plus button right here. And we'll launch that RStudio again. Okay, now in the inside RStudio, we're going to see the same file structure. It's just hidden one folder in. So right here, there is data store. You're going to click on data store, and inside now you should see what looks like what you saw out here. Same structure you see here. You now see inside of here, just like this. All right, I'm seeing some other questions. Brian, did you want us to go back and talk about the branching again?
Just a question, once I'm now in our studio, how do I verify which branch that I actually got my branch and not your branch? Is there something in the, I mean, so I did the SSH
Yeah.
from my branch.
Yeah, I don't know of a way to verify from inside. Yes, I do. In here, in the GitHub widget. So if I am in this, okay, sorry, I moved too quickly there. Okay, so right, first I'm in my file. I'm in the top layer of my folder. And let me start from a standard position. I'm in their standard starting position in home. I'm going to go into the Innovation Summit folder. So now I'm in the repo. When you are in the repo and you hit the GitHub widget, it's going to look different. It's not going to have the blue buttons anymore. Okay, let me go back. If I'm outside of that repo and I hit it, blue buttons, it's ready for me to bring a new repo in. If I go back to the folder and I go inside of the repo, now it looks different. Here, see it says current branch main. Switch that to be your branch. Or somebody else's branch if you wanted to try to merge to somebody else's branch.
Okay, so it clones the whole repo, and then it's my responsibility to pick the branch that I want. Okay, thanks.
It is. And where you're going to notice this is that there usually will be a security feature on merging back to the main. And so if you try to merge back to the main, it's going to pop up and make you fill out a pull request, which is like, I'm going to fill out a little thing and give it to the main and say main or some administrator, please pull my branch back into the main. And so usually it won't let you just barge back into the main. Usually if some administrator has to check your code and say, okay, you're good to go. But if you're doing it within your branch, nobody's going to bother you. You should be able to push back in there without problems. Okay, yeah, okay. Dana, I'll back up again now that we're caught up and do this last little section again. Okay, here we are back in our main ephemeral computer. And up here you see some tabs. I can close some of these. This is the terminal that I had open. I can close that. If I hit this tiny little plus button up here, it brings up what's called the launcher, which is what you're seeing right here. So if you accidentally close this, if you accidentally close the launchers all and you can't see them, you hit this little plus button, it'll bring up the launcher again, and that'll allow you to find the RStudio button. When you hit that RStudio button, as long as you fix the link before, it'll pop up in a new tab with RStudio ready to go. When you see RStudio, though, it's going to look like it has some more folders in it than it does. You're going to go into Data Store and you're going to see what we normally see. One of those is the Innovation Summit folder, which is the repo that we're working off of. So here's that repo. Inside of that repo, this is really small. Let me see if I just, inside that repo, we have docs. Try to go into the docs and then trainings. Inside of trainings, there's something called trainings to code QMD, and we're going to click on that. And you should see it opened up right here. Now, why are we doing this? Again, we're just practicing. We're showing you that it feels like a normal computer. Finding folders and files should feel like your normal computer. We're just trying to normalize moving around this space a little bit. Okay, you're immediately going to notice that we have some, this package is asking, this code is asking for some libraries that are not installed yet. And we can install stuff just like we normally would. That's installing some of those packages for just a second. Now, for those of you, I know we have a lot of RStudio users here, so I'm not going to spend very much time talking about what's going on here. But RStudio, you have 4 panels here. Right here is our main coding panel. Down here is our main output panel showing us what's happening when we code. Over here is our file folder structure. And then up here, it's telling us some of the stuff that we've built while we're in this coding environment. Here is in notebook format. So inside of these chunks is code, and then outside is Markdown where you can add little notes. So here you could say, remember last week we practiced some Markdown. So here is a header. You can modify these and you just save like you normally would. Save. And it's going to save to the folder that you opened up in. So everything that you brought in from GitHub is just acting like a normal folder structure now. You're just in a folder, coding away, saving stuff. No problemo. Okay. Install. Okay, and then to run code, we can hit this plus button right here, or this play button. Don't think we need that thing. Let's just delete it. Try running again. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna pause right there. Check the chat. There is a question about the difference between QMD and RMD. QMD is the newer software. So R Markdown is slowly being replaced by Quarto, which is the QMD. And Quarto has a little nicer conjunction between Python and R. And it just is getting a lot of the newer development. Yeah, you can just delete the base mapper, just delete the library call.
On my end, I'm only seeing the MD files. I'm not seeing any other types.
Okay, let me make sure. So in the repo here, oops, docs, trainings. And in here, there should be two versions of this, a training 2 code MD and a training 2 code QMD. So if you are, just want to make sure we're looking for the right thing, and then we'll address why maybe you wouldn't have it. So in here, in our studio, our folders are down here at the bottom. So let's just make sure we're going to the right place. So in Data Store, we're going to Innovation Summit. Inside of Innovation Summit, we're going to Docs. Inside of Docs, we're going to Trainings. And then inside of Trainings, there are a bunch of MDs. And there should be one QMD that has the same name as the above one. Will you check that again? And then if you don't have that, we might need you to screen share so we can see what's going on.
Yeah, I didn't check on the original GitHub, but in R, I am in the right place, the Data Store Innovation Summit docs trainings, and I'm just seeing
Ah,
a couple.
weird. I don't entirely know the answer to that question. Then we may have accidentally deleted it. Eric, do you have any thoughts or ideas? If she's not seeing the file in there.
Sorry, which file is it?
Inside of docs and trainings, there's a Quarto, a QMD.
Okay.
I think most people are seeing it, but they're not seeing it on there. I just didn't know if you had any ideas, but my guess is that you accidentally deleted it and then we would just need to pull again.
Yeah,
check that
or it
again.
was, huh. Yeah, it looks like it was, you might just need to pull any changes. Maybe you have an older version of the repo too. That could be it. So maybe from the Git widget, just using the pull button.
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. Okay, let's look over here. So in the GitHub widget, so first I went into the Innovation Summit folder. So I'm just inside the Innovation Summit folder. I hit the GitHub widget, and it should tell me things that have changed. You see a QMD that's changed there?
I'm looking now. Not seeing
Yeah, weird.
any.
Okay, and so, and here, if you go into docs, you got in trainings, we're not seeing it in here either. Do you see the anime.gift? Anim.gif?
No, I don't see the GIF or the PMG either, or PNG either.
Yeah, okay.
And I see basically, and I have to head out in a minute, so maybe I can just look on my own, but I see training 1, training 2, and training 3.
Yeah,
I
okay.
see
Yeah, I
nothing.
think you might have just forked an older version of things.
Okay,
I like before I put those up. So I think the fix there is it probably would not happen again. It was probably because we were just clicking around more than we normally would. But I think you just might have branched from a slightly older time.
okay.
So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. It's always nice to run into problems we have a hard time answering. Rob is asking a question about installing new packages in R. And yeah, they're using Mamba. I think that's all that's going on right there. Okay. All right, we are at an hour. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, 5-minute bio break, and then we'll come and just play around a little bit more. What you've seen right now is the startup procedure, and then we got in a little bit of just opening up a single file, but this is the thing we want to get good at. You can see how long it can take when you're not practiced, but if you just get some practice, it can take only a couple minutes to get the thing fired up, and then you're off to the races. So we want to get really comfortable with just the few steps of getting this thing started up right at the beginning. All right, it's 1:06. Let's come back at 1:12. So that's 6 minutes of bio break, and we'll play around some more. Just let everybody roll in slowly at their own pace a little bit. And we're all done with that. The link I just put in the chat takes us to this little speed test that Tyler did for us. So this is one of the researchers in Earth Lab. We were talking about this persistent storage and that it's networked and that it's about 100 times faster. And so he went and tried it. And so here we have this folder. This is the path for this folder. It is in the data store, data, iPlant, that shared one, but it's in the Earth Lab folder instead of the ESIIL folder. And it's called tree map. Now, the message that this is trying to send is if we, in our code, give directly the networked storage link, it takes about 3 seconds to run and plot this tree map. If you instead move the folder into the local hard drive in the ephemeral computer, then it goes about 100 times faster. It's about a 0.3 seconds. This is 100 times difference in every single thing that you do, every single time you read or write anything. So again, we have the ephemeral computer that we've started up here. That's our cloud instance. Our persistent storage is networked down to a server somewhere, and that's where that persistent storage is being stored. If we take our code and we directly link to this folder, well, every single time we do something, it has to go across the network, back, back, back. That's what's so slow. Instead, we just want to take whatever data we need and go ahead and bring it into the new instance, do whatever we need to, and then send the saved product back down at the end. So this is just showing you the difference between those two. Now, how do we do it? Well, we already talked once about the remove command. Well, the CP is the copy command. So we're gonna make this bigger. Copy is just copy a folder. The recursive function is so that you can do a whole folder at a time. And then you say, what am I copying? I'm copying this path name from. And where am I giving it? I'm going to put it in my top folder and just call it tree map. So I'm going to copy from the persistent storage back from the persistent storage to my ephemeral computer. Now, when I'm done for the day and I'm ready to save things out, well, hopefully most stuff can go to GitHub, but some things are going to go, well, you were too big for GitHub. And so you're going to use the same copy. You're just going to say copy, but this time copy, and you're going to do the R for being able to do a whole folder. Make this big again. Copy and R to do the whole folder, but now you're going to do these backwards. So you're going to say it's coming from tree map and going to my persistent storage. Okay. If you guys want to, you don't have to, but if you would like to try this, you can go ahead and try just copying this little bit of code right here. And that can go into your RStudio where we're working on stuff. Stick it right in here like that. I can put this in the chat in case people want to try it from there. Now, if I hit play, this is going to take a minute to do that initial copy, but then every other procedure I do is going to be way, way, way faster. Well, 100 times faster. I don't know if that's 3 ways, maybe a way per 0 and the way, way faster. All right, so I've copied and there's my plot. Okay, so message number 1, it's faster to move persistent data to your ephemeral computer than it is to try to read and write all the time, back and forth. Any questions, comments, concerns about that? Not seeing any screaming in the chat. Hopefully people are playing along. Okay. Now, I gave you that one first because I actually want you to even, that's the very last thing I want you to do is download data. The very last thing we want to do is actually bring in and store our own data. It's way faster. So here I have a data set by, just go to this link real quick. Here we go. So here is a Denver open data catalog. Okay, and here is in the word cloud is a big fat GIS. So let's go look at some of the GIS ones. And one of the things we can look at is a tree canopy assessment. And lots of you have probably seen something that looks like this. Okay, so here we have the different file types that you could download. And you have a download option. And when I hit that download option, it downloads it into my download folder. So now I see this shape file It looks like this. This is downloaded. So now you could imagine, okay, I have now downloaded that here, and now I need to get it uploaded to the cloud. So I could go to my data source and upload it here, and then go and move it, and you can see how many steps there are. What I'm trying to convince you is this is not the fastest way to do this. Now instead, this system has been invented called VSI, which is really nice and allows us to instead just get the link to this download. So instead of downloading it ourselves and then uploading it to the cloud, I'm going to right click this and copy the link. And I'm going to go back to my code in RStudio, and I can put that link right into here. So that's a link to a zip file. Now you normally can't just link to a zip file. We'd have to say, okay, well, what file are we actually going for inside of there? And when we looked at this thing, we actually could see, okay, they're using this naming structure. So given just that naming convention, I can hook up this path with this magic key at the beginning called VSI, and these data will stream instead of download. So here it's going to go get inside of the zip file, inside of the link, inside, find that shape file, and just give me that shape file directly. So for those of you that are playing along, you can hit play on this, and you're going to see that it's going to save us all of that download, come around. And instead, it's just going to link in and stream those data live. So this is a big message here about trying to not download things. We want to avoid downloading because it takes us a long time and it gives us a lot of baggage that we have to deal with. If instead you could just set up a bunch of streaming links to data sources, well, those data sources just stream in easily with you. Okay, so here we've just instantly pulled a tree inventory from the city of Denver. It has all the species names, where they are located in the city, yada, yada, yada. Sometimes we don't even have to use VSI. Here is a data set that's on GitHub. And things that are already hosted on GitHub are already ready to just link into without any problems. So here's a GeoJSON on somebody's GitHub repository. And we are just going to put the link to that data straight into a function. And there's something up. Oh, gotta pull this one first, maybe. Yeah. Sorry, I put my code out of order. Here, let me just move this up here. Okay, so what did we do here? So first, I just gave it this URL, and now we read that in like it's real data. And we bring it, so we read SF, we just read in straight from the URL, and then we can select a few things. And now we're given redlining data. So we're going to play around with this, but the point here, the thing we want to use in this training, the reason for this is you don't need to download the whole data. You can use just the URL, especially if it's just on GitHub. Again, hopefully you guys are playing along a little bit with me. Here is OpenStreetMap. So how do we get things like roads and rivers? Again, we're going to try to stream them. So we can use the We pulled some polygons from Denver earlier. We're just going to take a bounding box around those and then go and search for things in OpenStreetMap. So what type of things are we searching for? Well, first I'm going to search for roads. Roads are a type line, and they have these names called roadway, trunk, primary, secondary. How would I possibly know what those are? I'm going to go to a thing called OpenStreetMap tags. OpenStreetMap uses this system called tags. So you can go to there's a tags wiki, and it will tell you the combination of tags for different things. So let's see, for roads, say highways, and then here, so some of the things that you can give, so highway is a tag and this is a key, so you could have highway trunk or highway primary, highway trunk, highway primary. These are the ones that we sent that, let me make it bigger. These are the ones that I have in my search right now. So they're just telling you what are the keywords. So when you're looking for different roads, roads here are called highways, and what kind of road do you want? And it tells you what those mean. You can go all the way down to cycleways or footways or horse walking paths. Okay, but all I did was I then moved those classifications over here into my query. So I'm saying, give me lines that are those type of highways, or give me lines that are these type of waterways. And both of those are going to give me nice data sets, spatial data sets. Okay, well, that's running. Those are going to give me nice spatial data sets for roads and for rivers. And they go pretty fast. I mean, right now this is taking, you know, maybe a minute, but that's still a lot faster than us going and hand downloading some road file from the city or some river file from the city and pushing it back up to the cloud, where again, we're streaming data. So the big thing we want to do here is set up our code, because our code saves nicely in GitHub, but set up our code so it streams data in. So we start this ephemeral instance, stream all the data in that we need, and then call it quits. So while that's running and downloading just my rivers and roads, let me hop off of this and see what the chat message looks like. And Nate is making a joke about cloud grazing. Exactly. I've given a couple talks about how we should, use data grazing. Go around the cloud and just graze stuff that you need instead of taking big chunks off and downloading the whole thing. Yeah, he also points out that there are sister versions of all of this for Python. Just instead of going through both languages today, we picked one language, but all of this stuff is language agnostic. These are just general strategies for getting in and out of cloud instances, not necessarily an R thing or a Python thing. Okay. So the rivers and roads have now downloaded. And again, hopefully you guys are playing along with me. We're going to scroll down here and we're going to make a plot of the things we've done already. So we downloaded some polygons from the city, and we downloaded some streets, and so we downloaded some rivers, and boom, just like that, we have made a map. So we didn't have any of this data loaded in the system. And now in real time, we have loaded in those data sets, cropped those data sets, processed those data sets, and produced a map. And you guys you've seen it happen while I was just talking in the last couple minutes. Okay. Now I've made a bunch of changes here, right? This is red because it now needs a save. So if I hit Command Save, that's going to save to the working directory, just as you would expect over here. And if I go back to my big computer view, you're going to see, well, might need to refresh. And yeah, you're gonna see 1 minute ago, we made a new Denver redlining PNG. I don't know if you can actually, yeah. So, and we can see this massive map that we printed out. And if I go back over to the GitHub, I see, oh man, there are some things that are changed, but not staged yet. So I'm going to say, okay, yes, I'm going to push these back to GitHub, both of those things. I'm going to push them back to my branch, not to the main. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make a comment on what these are. I'm going to hit commit. Now that just means that my changes have been formatted to go to GitHub, but haven't been pushed back to GitHub yet. To do that, I have to come back up to this little orange button at the top. Hit that. And now things should be pushing, successfully pushed. And now my changes have been saved. All right, I'm going to take a break for a second. I have one last little casual lesson to give, but now is our big question and answer session before I do that. So I just want everybody to take a chance, take a second is what I meant. Take a second and just think back through the whole procedure that we've done and ask yourself if you feel comfortable doing that. Do you feel comfortable doing the startup procedure so that your instance is up and running and hooked up to GitHub and you can work with other people? Do you feel comfortable moving stuff in and out, making changes, and then pushing back to GitHub so that you've now contributed to the whole group? So just think about that whole process and make sure you feel comfortable doing that. Oh, and that you could take notes in Markdown on the GitHub page and ask questions if you feel like there's anything that's foggy or cloudy or that you need some clarification on.
So question, Ty. Ty, you pushed the picture, the PNG picture, which is a megabyte or two. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, is that something you recommend we do, or?
Yeah, so GitHub lets you go up to 100 megs, and I would do everything you can to GitHub because it's easier and keeps track of everything. If you go and hit it and it says that thing is too big, you need to ignore it, then you're going to ignore that full file and instead send it to persistent storage. But I would put everything to GitHub before persistent storage if you can. Allison is getting a fail to push. Yeah, and there's a question about, are you trying to push to main? Make sure when you're pushing that you're trying to push to your branch. And Rob, I don't fully understand your question. Do you want to articulate a little bit? Up your chipmunking. These are good. Again, we're just trying to make sure everybody feels like fully empowered and we're not dealing with silly problems in the Innovation Summit. So you don't need to be a master of this. We just want you to feel really comfortable and like we're not springing anything on you and you could go and just sort of work easily.
Any better?
That's right. Yeah, it works good. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, no, sorry, I had muted you in the process of trying to fix it. No, there's this thing called Git LFS that I know it helps with binary files, but I don't know if it helps with the file size limits on GitHub. And I was just asking if anyone knew, because I've used it before for like Excel files, which don't really play what nice with Git, but I've never used it for giant files, so I don't know if it helps.
Yeah, don't know for sure. Sorry. Sounds like, yeah, if anybody in the crowd can chime in, we'd love to hear your input. Okay, Allison is asking about seeing the changes. Yep, let me show you real quick. Okay, so back at GitHub Central, first you're gonna see tester, it's giving me a warning that I have changed something and pushed it back in. In the main channel, you can come down here, and right here it says 213 commits. That is, so we're in main. It's showing what was the last one. Rachel changed something on the index page 48 minutes ago. If we go into the commits here, you're going to see every single change that's happened. Now, if I want to be on a different branch instead, now I come here and you can see the branches, one commit ahead or two commits behind the main. You click on that and it's showing you, what did you do? What did you modify? Here it actually says, okay, like I subtracted this and I added this. This, if there was a merge conflict, it's going to have both. It's like it will have squeezed both the codes. Like the conflict means there are two versions and it doesn't know which one to do, and it'll squeeze both those together and add a bunch of text that makes it error out. You have to go and delete that little bit extra stuff and choose between one or the other. But right here, it's showing you what was added and what's subtracted for every single one. And now, if I was like, I like those changes, I'm ready. Now I'm going to create pull request. And that is going to let me fill out a little application to merge back into the main. And Eric or me would then come up and approve whether you got to merge or not.
But Ty, you're two commits behind the main because of those others. So can you do a pull request at that point, or do you have to first?
Yeah, so that, yeah, I would need to go, if I tried to merge into main, I could mess something up. And so, yeah, let me pull that up again. Compare and pull request. Yeah, so see, I would just do a pull request and it would send all of this. And whoever is doing the merging has to deal with all of the pain of merging back and forth. Eric, did you have anything to input on that, or anybody else have some feedback on? Yeah, not really. Yeah, it could just be, but you can imagine at big software development institutes that, you know, like when they're building huge software packs and you have a lot of people doing branches, it could be one person's full-time job just to be managing the pull requests back on domain and making sure nothing is breaking and testing everything as it comes in.
Yeah, I was asking a little bit different, that you're on the branch and Rachel's made some changes on the main. And you want to pull those into your branch. Perhaps.
Oh, yeah, I see. I think you have to merge and then fork again, but I don't know. Eric, do you know? Or Eric or Eric?
Yeah, you could just run git merge to merge the changes from main, and if they conflict, then you'd have to resolve those conflicts. But otherwise, it would just, and that's if you're ever working on a repository and you have a branch that you want to push back, you want to create a merge request for to main. the kind of the last commit you always want is a merge from main back to that branch you're going to create a merge request for. That way you can resolve any conflicts before you create the merge request. So, like all things in Git, it's best to learn it by just doing it. It's almost too hard to just keep it all in theory.
Yeah, and I can add a little bit. Basically, as long as, you know, if you're not touching files that other folks have touched, then you can, if you make edits and then like make a pull request, it can be merged in fine, even if your commits behind. But I echo what other Eric says. Definitely, if you can merge main into your branch before you start working on things. If you've done work on your branch and you have commits where you're ahead of main, if other people have like done stuff to main, as long as it's not files you're working on, you can merge that in and update your branch without losing the stuff you did. Because the commits are like file specific, you know, like, so it just updates the other things that people have done in the repo. So the only thing is if somebody works on the same file that you've been working on and you've changed it in one way and they've changed it in a different way, that's when you run into merge conflicts that you have to deal with.
Okay, so I'm a newbie on the branches and all. So how could I merge the main into my branch? It's not worth our time right now. If it's not worth our time, that's fine.
Eric, you want to show him how to do, Eric Verlay, you want to show him how to do that on GitHub?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to do it from the from a Cyverse instance. I'm wondering if the Git widget has a
Can't do that
most
in
IDEs have a nice little Git interface for merging main. But let's see here.
Well, for
You,
instance, it says that
I was
these,
going to say real quick, you can do it in the web UI too.
that's
Like
what I
if you
was,
go to your, yeah, you would make a pull request from main to your branch. And then, so that would update your branch on GitHub. And then you would, then in the Jupyter lab, you would just pull once you've updated it in GitHub. And then you'd have your the updates from main on your branch, both in GitHub and on your Jupyter lab.
okay, I get the theory.
All right, let's see if we can, let's try it real quick.
Yeah, I've actually never used GitHub to pull and merge branches, so.
So I'll try it together. So, I am, let's go back. So if I go to my branch. Compare and pull request.
So that's, you can create the merge request, but, or the pull request, but can you pull main into your branch now from GitHub?
Yeah, you just you from those drop downs, you can just switch which one is. So you would make your branch the one that arrow is pointing to, and
Oh,
then
yeah, that's right.
pick
Yeah.
main. Yeah.
So you can switch. Yeah, I think if you press that arrow, it might. Yeah.
Well, if I do that, right. Let me go back to, so if I did that, but I just click this.
Oh,
No, I have to.
I don't know. You were right.
See. I think we're done. Let's go see now. Recent poll, compare and request. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so the answer was you just rotated these around. So you're pulling the main into your branch to update from the main. Thanks, team. Okay, Gregor is telling us that there is that you could do this in the widget also inside of Cypress. See where that is. So if I go into here, branch. You're saying I could pull from the main. I could do this and then just pull.
You can mouse over the branch that you want to pull into your current branch.
Yeah.
And then on the right, there's like the little merge icon. So if you, yeah, in the drop down, select your tie tester branch.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be merging tie tester into main.
Right.
So you
So if
have to,
I
yeah.
instead was on tie tester, and then I come down to main, and I go to the merge branch into the current one, and it does the same thing. Cool.
Thanks. This is really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Last chance for questions before we do the close down procedure. Go ahead, Kenji.
Hi, thanks, Ty. I was just wondering, I had a little bit of a question about the data streaming approach. And maybe this is just me having to change how I think about things, but I can see how streaming data through URLs and stuff is going to be really helpful in the long run, but I also see that in the development phase, when you're trying to make sure that every piece of code runs in tandem properly, it might be a little bit annoying that every time you run that, it just takes a minute or two to do the down. Well, it's not exactly downloading, but to pull it, right? Especially if you, yeah. So I was just wondering how folks at ESIIL or
Yeah,
you
totally.
contend with that sort of thing.
Yeah, so this is the rat through the snake problem. Okay, so you're totally right if you have a little toy data set. So like a small thing that easily just floats in and out of your computer, sure, just grab a copy of it and who cares? Where it becomes a problem is when you get really big things that are a little difficult to move around. For example, that same folder that like the NDVI that I pulled in really quickly for in that code, or the OpenStreetMap lines that I pulled in with the code. If you download those and put them on the persistent storage, it takes longer to get them in the system and run the plot from the persistent storage than it does through the streaming. So the saving often is actually like in real time, just slower. But the other big thing is that rat through the snake problem. So now if that rat is too big to fit through the snake, so like you think about the classic way we do this is we download like the largest data set we possibly can into our machine and then shave off down to our area of interest. These mounting things allow you to mount into the data and go in and get just that little pocket of data that you need and pull it out and never have that big one. Well, so now you could set up this entire pipeline of all the stuff that happens en route to you. So it not only pulls that data, but then also reprojects it, subsamples it, averages it, turns it into an animation. What you get at the end is just that tiny little animation and not all of that data that was processed ahead. Well, now you can scale up everything so that end land is as big as your machine instead of the end of the pipeline is as big as your machine instead of the beginning of the pipeline. This can make like multiple orders of magnitude difference in how much data you can get in or how big of an area of interest you could possibly address. So these mounting techniques are more about that. It's more about when you get to the boundary of what's possible, you're able to go way, way farther with mounting techniques than you are with the downloading technique. And the downloading technique, even in small cases, isn't always faster because the mounting is so fast. It can sometimes, even with small data sets, just be slower to like just get it in from a folder, in from persistent storage into the thing. So yes, but I think it usually is a little better to mount if you can and just stream the data.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Now's the time if you have questions, comments, concerns.
I just have a quick question. So we've
Yeah.
been making or talking about the importance of persistent storage. But my understanding with this streaming approach to getting the data is that we're not storing it. Is that the case? I'm just curious about that.
That's the case. That's why I showed you that thing first and said this is the least important. Because you want to, if at all possible, not store something. But that being said, let's say you've harmonized. Let's say you set up a stream to 15 different data sets and they all come in and they all like harmonize nicely, and you do all this work to make them a new, unique, packageable, savable thing. Go ahead and save that to persistent storage and you can save yourself all that effort of doing that stuff over and over again. I'm just saying, don't go like download all of your rasters and download all your polygons and download all your environmental data. Don't like spend days filling up a folder with a bunch of data and then linking into all that. Instead, know that people have already stored these things in really efficient cloud optimized ways. And you can just stream things in and get a lot more data into your analysis than you did before.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Bob is asking a question about exceeding your computation limit. That's when you just need to send Eric your Cyverse username and he'll get you bumped up to the larger allocation before the summit. So we expected that to happen. Just send us your name and we'll bump you up to the next thing. Okay, so that was amazing. I'm just going to show you the shutdown procedure and skip the last thing that I was going to go over because the question and answer session was way more valuable. But let's just say, okay, we have been working all day with our friends. We are ready to be done. We need to save everything out. So first thing we're going to do is go back to the GitHub, do the push your changes. It failed to push because I think we've been messing with all kinds of stuff. Push our changes, make sure all of the code that you changed goes back to GitHub. 2, any persistent storage that couldn't go back to GitHub, you're going to need to use that copy function. So you find the thing you want to save, you go into the launcher, open up a terminal, and use the copy R so we can use a full folder, and then put the from and to addresses for each one of those, send stuff down to persistent storage. Okay, you are now ready to shut down your instance. You've saved everything that there is to save. And to shut down our instance, we're going to go back to our DE. And 1, 2, 3, 4 down are our analyses. In our analyses, you see the one that's running right now. We come over here on the far right, we have a couple choices. If we hit this extend time limit, it would make sure that the instance was running for longer and doesn't shut down automatically after 4 or 8 hours of of not being used tonight. But what we're looking for right now is this red button called terminate. We're going to hit that terminate button. It's going to ask for confirmation. And it has terminated that analysis. If you want to start this analysis up again, you can still go and relaunch it right here. But right now, it is shut down and you are back to 0. All right. Yeah, the persistent storage is, let me show you that one of these links that I sent you had a good version of it. So this has screen share. This one that I just linked has sort of a generic link. So first, we're going to be in the data store. The data store is the networked storage. In there is data. In there's iPlant. This was the original name of Cyverse, but there's so many people in this folder, they can't change it anymore. Inside there's home, shared. Here in the one I gave you, it says Earth Lab, but if you were to make one for the summit, you would have ESIIL here instead of Earth Lab. And then whatever this file path is just inside of that. So you're just getting down to this folder path. So data store, data, iPlant, home, shared, ESIIL. And then you would need to go make a folder inside of here to store all of your stuff accordingly.
Hey Ty, would we have to close these instances every day for the summit, or could we leave one open for the whole summit?
You can leave one open for the whole summit. We just don't want to leave them open between summits. But yeah, the group could start one at the beginning and happily just leave it open for the whole thing.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. When you have it open, if you exceeded your limit, it might shut down for you. And so I wouldn't leave a bunch of sensitive stuff on there just in case it crashes. You don't lose a bunch of work, but otherwise you should be able to leave it open, no problem. Okay, we are out of time. I will stay on as long as I need if there are people that have questions. But for those of you that feel like you've gotten everything that you need, thanks for coming. There's one more training next week on Monday about science of team science. And then otherwise, we'll see people the week after in real life, as they say. Thanks, guys. Any last notes, Eric?
No, I thought it went well. So let's just I think we should